Planet Zoo, Planet Zoo, it's time to play Planet Zoo.
Hey, welcome back to Planet Zoo. This is Martini 4. We are here again at Talbot National Zoo. And by the thumbnail, you can tell we are working on a beaver habitat. Officially into our North American section of the Riverwalk. I figured the first thing to go with would be beavers, because I am in the Pacific Northwest and beavers are very prevalent here. So that is what I started with. And I had an idea that I hadn't really seen too much of, and that is to build an actual. I've seen lots of beaver dams built in the game. I haven't really seen any beaver lodges built. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't watched every single video everyone has put out, but most of the shelters and stuff is what I've seen is just normal buildings where the zookeepers can get to them, and just kind of like a behind the scenes type of thing, a backstage area. But I wanted to put an actual beaver lodge out in the habitat with a viewing area, so guests could see the beavers while they sleep. So you will see that coming up here shortly. Right now, just kind of laying everything out. I figured out where I was going to put their dam, and then I wanted it to look like, the area just flooded behind it. So I made it very, large water area where the river kind of flows in, and then it fills up and trickles through the dam itself. So all in all, I think it came out pretty good. I did check a few things and realized that I had way too large of an area for them. But I didn't want to make it too small, because I wanted it to look fairly natural. So in order to do that, I wanted to make sure I had enough area for everything I wanted to add. And of course I used just glass barriers for the underwater viewing. And instead of just having one path to lead down and have the guests go down, check things out, and then come back up, I wanted to make it more fluid. So I wanted to make it where they could come down, check things out, and then continue on their way up a different path, instead of just backtracking everything. And here, this platform, this is where their lodge is going to be. So I wanted to just make it just like a flat plaster platform that they could walk on for sure. Lower it down into the water so they could get up onto it. I wasn't sure how I was going to actually construct it. I knew I was going to use the trees and branches like you do for the dam, but as far as the height and everything goes, I wasn't too sure. what height I would need to make sure that the beavers would be able to get in there, but I ended up just lucking out. Once I started building it and everything, it just kind of fell into place. So that was pretty cool. And then here I'm working on trying to get the terrain to cooperate with me so I can get a good viewing level, so guests could just look right into their sleeping quarters. Here, just checking again to see what all biomes are acceptable for them. Laying down the rock work for their beaver dam. This is where the water flows out from the river. So this is where they decided to dam it up and create their little pond. And this was a lot more time consuming than I was expecting it to be. I cut out a lot of footage. There's a lot of minor adjustments and tweaking and twisting trees and branches this way and that way. And I probably could have done more to it, but you get the general idea of what's going on. I don't see why every little crack would have to be covered up. And then here was where I started working on the lodge. Like I said, I didn't know where to even begin, so I just started out with a square structure. And yeah, just kind of closing in some walls, and then started laying stuff over top. I wanted it to kind of mound up and not really look just like a square or a rectangle. So once I start laying all the trees and branches down, I just kind of start crisscrossing them every direction I could. Try to fill up any gaps and holes. And again, this was very time consuming as well. But the end product I think looked pretty good. And I wanted it to where they would have to dive underwater to get up into it, but they end up just swimming through the branches and everything and just crawling up and laying down and going to sleep. Alright, and then I decided to do a little more work on the viewing areas than I had been originally. I wanted this to be to have a roof over it, to be kind of enclosed but still open. So I used a lot of wood and logs, just to kind of keep with that North American theme. Here we go with the canopy, starting to build up some supports and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. After I got the habitat all built and kind of let it run for a while, I noticed people weren't really going up here to check anything out. even if the beavers were in their little lodge sleeping. So I went back and put in a vista point just to attract more people, to make it look like they're going in there checking everything out, which seemed to work. There was a lot more guest interaction in that area. These are the kinds of things I always enjoyed seeing and going into when I went to the zoo and stuff. Just all the little nooks and crannies and anything I could crawl through as a kid. I would beg my mom to let me crawl through it. And doing this style of roof, it doesn't really look perfect, but I kind of wanted to keep it with that, like the beaver lodge and their dams and stuff. Everything's just kind of thrown in, and it still works even though it's not perfect as well. So that's why I didn't try to line everything up exactly and space it all out. Just kind of throw it in and let it be. And of course I had to put the little cartoon beaver guy up there. I had to use him somewhere. I ended up putting him on all the screens and education boards and stuff like that. And then adding some more rocks for the landscaping area. I really wanted this to kind of stand out and be its own biome, I guess. We just came out of the jungle, which I did the same over there. Probably not as extensively, but yeah, this I want it to look more mountainous and kind of Pacific Northwest style. So a lot of rocks, a lot of pine trees and stuff like that. You'll see a lot of ferns. There we go. Continuing on with the logs, just to cover up the beams on the glass. Wanted everything to kind of look as natural as possible. I really, watching back and doing this voiceover, just the amount of jumping from one thing to another, just it's almost driving me crazy. I can imagine other people watching this that aren't me asking themselves, what are you doing? Why don't you finish what you started? Yeah, this again, just trying to cover up the glass edges and stuff. Make it look like the glass was stuck into the wood. Now I got the enrichment item here, the beaver dam enrichment. They don't really use it too much in this habitat that I've seen, but I haven't really watched them too close. And of course I wanted to have a few different viewing areas, so I'm putting one right here. I like to keep them a little smaller, more like intimate viewing areas instead of large ones like the capybara was just kind of the entire length of the habitat was the whole viewing area. This one here, I just wanted to kind of keep everything separated. Only let people look in certain areas. And then as I let the game run, the simulation, they kind of picked out their own areas that they were watching from. So I ended up putting up some education boards and the donation bins and stuff where they were stopping to look. So that's always something to keep in mind when you're building your habitats. Pay attention to where everyone stops and looks. If you don't want them stopping there, then there's either something you need to change or add some donations to get more money. I thought this little viewing area turned out pretty good too. I put in that extra little fence just as a barrier to keep the guests back from trying to reach in and keep the beavers from chewing through the wooden fence. In the back of the habitat here, I'm just using the natural land as the barrier. And a few videos from now, you'll see I actually decided to go back and put in a couple more viewing areas up on top of that hill, so people can kind of look down from that side once the zoo gets built up over in that area. But yeah, for anyone watching, what would you like to see in this zoo? I know this area is kind of set in stone. I have my plans on this river adventure walk, but the rest of the zoo is all up for grabs. If there's a particular animal you'd like to see me tackle, try to see what I can come up with for it, let me know in the comments. I've been getting a couple more comments here and there lately, so that's pretty cool. I appreciate the feedback. Thank you. Still kind of getting a feel for everything. I am feeling a lot more comfortable talking about what I'm doing. It helps that there's nobody else around. The whole family's gone, so off to school and work and here by myself, so it makes it a lot easier. Except for the dogs, you might hear them in the background every now and then. There is a fish tank behind me. You might hear that in the background as well. I just moved everything around in my house, so now the aquarium is directly behind my head, and the water level has kind of come down, and I forgot to fill it before I started recording here. So you might hear that trickling in the background. Sorry about that. So here, yeah, we're working on the foliage, putting in a lot of I believe those were like birch trees and different bushes, the manzanita bushes. I really like those. I like the red bark on them. We have a lot of trees here. The name is escaping me right now. Madrone. A lot of madrone trees around here that have the red bark like that. And it's crazy because originally I'm from Missouri, so when I moved out here, I'd never really seen those kinds of trees before, and yeah, it really they're crazy to me because of the redness of the bark and everything, and how smooth it is. You know, I'm used to oak trees and maple trees with the really rough bark, and there go the dogs. Sorry about that. But yeah, used to the really rough bark, and then the madrones have the really, really smooth, the really smooth feel to their bark. It's kind of different. And I do use a lot of manzanita wood from the bushes in my aquariums and the aquascaping and stuff. So I like to throw those in my habitats here when I can. So yeah, working on this little viewing area here. I was just gonna copy and paste that other screen over to here, but I didn't really have a good place to like a really good wall area to put it on, so I kind of try to keep things as realistic in my head as possible. So I just rebuilt it from scratch using the freestanding screen. And then there, yeah, just putting up the fencing. I realized later on that doing it this way with the the horizontal rails first, and then putting all the vertical posts in at all the junction points, kind of wasn't a great idea, because I go to copy and paste that later on the rest of the walkways and stuff, and things weren't really lining up right, and I couldn't figure it out. I forgot that I had originally built it that way, so realizing now that is why things were a little more difficult later on. So I'll have to keep that in mind. Just build the vertical and horizontal all at once and keep it all together like I normally do. Don't change what's not broke. Here, just kind of filling out some of the landscaping around the outside of the habitat. I really like the leaf litter. Add some color in, and a little more texture to the ground instead of just the grass. Yeah, I really like just having, not just a bunch of open area, but I don't like having all the same, just greenery everywhere. So that leaf litter's really cool. I really like it. Some of it's a little overpowering. That's why I put some of these, I can't remember what they're called. These little ferns, just to kind of break it up a little bit, kind of soften the edges. And then here, I start putting them on this wall. I didn't want to just cover it all with rock and stuff. And out here, there's lots of steep, like not really cliffs, but steep embankments that are just covered with these little ferns and mosses and stuff like that. So I just want to kind of throw some of that in there. Now putting in some of the little final touches. Some of the donation bins, and make sure I have benches and And trash cans everywhere, otherwise there's litter all over the place. And here I just wanted a little something to cover up that curb, I guess you could call it. And I really like these like little patches of flowers. They add a lot of texture to open areas as well. And I figured, it helps the bee population within the game too, right? Because there's signs and stuff talking about the bees. So I had a bunch of little flowers in for them. And I put a bunch of leaf litter in underneath the the pine needle trees. So not too realistic there, but just I needed that little bit of color in there. Everything was looking too much the same. And then we're putting in the keeper hut here. I was gonna use just a pre-made keeper hut, but it didn't really fit what I wanted it to look like. So yeah, I just went with these the little log walls. Just kind of make it blend in to the surrounding. Didn't really want it to be too flashy or anything like that, but put a little bit of detail into it as well. Probably more than I needed to, since no one's ever going to go back here and look at it. And here, I actually cut out part of the video. I took out that wall right there because I wanted to put a window in with a window planter and stuff, but I just couldn't get it to line up right. The pre-built window was too low to the ground than what I wanted it to be. I tried to make my own window, but it just wasn't looking right. So I just did one of these, just kind of framed it out. I was gonna put a piece of glass in there, but that didn't look right. But you could see the logs behind it. So I used a 2A glass, but I turned it backwards so that the dark part of the glass was facing out, and kind of tinted out the window so you couldn't see behind it as much. And of course I had to throw the trim up and around this window as well, trying to keep everything cohesive. I go through and I also change the color on the actual windows and the door for the building itself. Yeah, just for a little building, just kind of for the staff. I thought it turned out really good. Setting up the work zones, and here I found an area where they could escape. I'm really bad about checking that until it actually happens, but this time I decided to take a look, and it took me forever to figure out the most simplest solution. I tried all kinds of different fences and barriers, different heights. No matter what I did, it still had that escape symbol on there. And you see, I'm moving it everywhere and all different heights. No matter what, there's still that symbol there. So I finally get frustrated with it enough that I just forget about it for a while, and I decide I'll come back to it later. Yeah, and this is where I see the hard shelter isn't working out. So I decide to take some of that plaster. I think it's plaster or concrete, one of the two, and just raise it up and make a ceiling out of it. Just putting it right underneath the logs and sticks and everything, hoping that it's high enough for the beavers to fit in there, which it was. I actually picked one up and put it in there to make sure. I give them their feeding platform. I was going to try to make a little bridge going over, but I couldn't do it with the platform, so I just left it. Just kind of made a little dock out of it. Just put some supports down. And then I go back to this and I realize that all I had to do is move the null barrier out. Because that was the only thing that was saying, that was the only reason giving it the escape. It was the null barrier was in the wrong place. So yeah, all of that hassle for nothing. I felt like an idiot. So yeah, just getting the education all situated here. Making sure everything's all linked up and ready to go. We'll be coming up on some cinematics here. I really like the way this habitat turned out. I feel like I'm getting a lot better at what I'm building. Really gives me, a sense of accomplishment, since I don't really do a whole lot of other stuff other than work on my house, which that gives me a sense of accomplishment as well. Yeah, this is a little more creative stuff for me to do. I've always been a creative person, playing music and drawing and stuff like that. So it kind of gives me that outlet, and actually sharing it with the world. So I really appreciate anyone and everyone that watches these and subscribes. Hit that subscribe button for me. Yeah, you can't imagine how good it makes you feel when you take a look and you have one new subscriber. But hey, that's what it's all about. Just getting to that one person that likes what you're doing. I don't need to millions of subscribers that don't really care. Just those couple of people that are just as passionate as I am. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, here we are with the end cinematics. Just coming over the bridge, heading off to see the beavers. I hope you guys are enjoying what I'm releasing here. It's really been a lot of fun for me. Getting a lot more experience at doing everything, so it's really helping me out. I'll leave you to the rest of the video here. Like I said, I appreciate everyone that watches, anyone that has subscribed, and anyone that hits that subscribe button. Give me a like, leave a comment at least. Let me know what I could do better to get your subscription. Yeah, I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks. Bye.